Karz talks, where facts are opinions and opinions are facts. Nissan's in trouble. We kind of know this, but why is Nissan in trouble? How did Nissan get to this point? Well, the short answer is climate change. Long answer, bad decisions. So let's talk about that a little bit more closely, shall we? Nissan is knocking on death's door. I mean, out of all the big manufacturers right now, Nissan is like the one ready to be completely axed. I mean, they're pretty much set up for full insolvency. Like, they are ready to just go completely under and there'll be no trace of them left. The crazy part is they've been trying their hardest to merge with other companies like Honda. Like, we all kind of thought, nah, this might work, but on the same side, it's like, well, what does Honda really got the benefit from Nissan? Nissan doesn't have any like pioneering technologies. There's really nothing good for them. And really, it was Nissan benefiting from Honda. And then just recently, Nissan's trying to partner up with Foxconn. Well, what the hell does Foxconn do? Well, Foxconn is a big technology company. They manufacture all kinds of electronics and stuff. So, see, Nissan's been trying to partner up with companies that have already have large investments into EV technology, battery technology, motors, the whole nine. Because that right there is kind of like the last nail in the coffin on why Nissan's really in trouble. But we'll get to that here in a second. We got to first backtrack a little bit to get to this point now. Why is Nissan even in this boat to begin with? Well, the weird thing is, you go back in time and you realize, Nissan's never been the worst. This is going way the hell back, but just for relevancy, let's not go back too far. Let's just go back to about, the 2000s or so. And on up from there. Nissan was never like the top selling brand in this country, but they did sell a lot. And then the 2010s happened. They were doing pretty good. Even though the whole CVT debacle, like that in itself, created issues. And part of that, I think, was a kind of a catalyst to what had happened, why sales had dipped. One of the many reasons, but it's like, okay, 2022, 2024 Nissan CVT class action lawsuit. Nissan agreed to pay over $277 million as part of a settlement to resolve certain defective transmission claims. Really, that's not too bad considering all things. And that was a settlement covering vehicles from 2014 to 2018. Well, the crazy part is, during those times when people were buying these cars, they didn't really realize that the CVTs were a problem. It was one of those things where it was still pretty new. They were just more or less hyped over the efficiency from it, not realizing there was potential reliability and longevity issues. And it's not necessarily CVT, even though CVT inherently can be unreliable, but Nissan, the transmission they used had defects and it basically created accelerated wear, leading to failure. So it was a problem. And I think after it happened, it put a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Because Nissan, once again, never known for the best reliability, but it was never known to be like stay the hell away kind of vehicle. It was always like this is a good but not great vehicle, right? Brand overall. But with that said, the crazy part is, in 2014, Nissan did a record amount of sales in the United States, over 1.3 million vehicles, 11.1% increase from 2013. And in 2015, they still sold a lot. Their light truck sales went up 20% in 2015. Their overall numbers were slightly lower, but they still were picking up. They were increasing in certain segments of the market. They were doing good. And then in 2016, they sold even more at 1.58 million, which is a 4.2% increase in sales in the United States. 2017, up again, a 2.6% increase at almost 1.6 million vehicles. And then something happened, because then in 2018, this happened. Nissan's global sales decreased by 4.4%. US sales decreased by 9.3%. 3%. And then it's been downhill ever since. Every year following that has been lower and lower and lower. And then once COVID hit, Nissan sales were dropping from single digits year over year to double digits year over year. So we're going from, 6-7% drop to 20% drop from 19 to 20, 20 to 21. So it was a significant difference. And then before you know it, Nissan's hardly selling anything by 2025. That's a problem. But what happened in 2018? How did Nissan sales just go from record highs of higher and higher and higher to the beginning of the end? How did that happen? Well, like I said, I think at this point in time, by 2018, all of the drama from the CVTs had finally caught up. Consumers were well informed that the CVTs were potentially a problem at this point in time. I think that in itself hurt a lot of Nissan sales. On top of that, there was all kinds of other things going on. So the CEO at the time got himself in a bunch of legal trouble with the company. That created a whole bunch of controversy. Nissan didn't quite have the same offerings as some of the other Japanese brands that were selling in America as well. They didn't have hybrids, small SUVs. They had, the Rogue. And then they come out with the Nissan Kicks later, but kind of a little late in the game, that was a little more of a reactive measure than a proactive. A lot of the vehicles in 2018, they kind of seemed a little outdated. You ever got into a Nissan vehicle, while they were still decent, they were still nice. Sometimes a Nissan vehicle in 2018 still felt like a Japanese car in the 90s, which could be a good thing or could be a bad thing depending on how you look at it. I mean, it had that feel. And it's like, okay, how can a car made in 2018 still feel like something made in 1998? Doesn't make any sense. But that's how Nissan was. The quality wasn't as good and they were having problems with the CVTs. All their models were being outdated. They had nothing exciting to offer outside of the 370Z and the GTR, which the GTR, wow, is an amazing vehicle. It wasn't accessible by everyone. So, comparatively, that vehicle was not going to sell as much as, Nissan Altima. And Nissan not having a diverse lineup or a lineup to at least match the market demand kind of really hurt them too. In 2018, Nissan lost a crap ton of market share, and that was due to its direct competitors, Toyota and Honda. And then even Hyundai and Kia at the time, that's when they're really starting to pick up pace in sales. Also around 2018 and 2019 is when many auto manufacturers started investing into EV technology. Now, EV technology is obviously proven to be an extremely expensive technology to invest in. It seems like it should be so simple, but yet it's not. Battery technology is really the big part that they're trying to innovate. But overall, I mean, you still want to try to innovate more efficient electric motors. I mean, electric motors are much more efficient than internal combustion engines inherently, but they can always be made better, right? There's always can be improvements. Well, improvements cost money, and that kind of money, I mean, we're talking billions that these big manufacturers are investing. Well, Nissan didn't have that. They didn't have the capital really to invest the same rate as some of the other large manufacturers. So that right there hurt them a lot. Not being able to invest in the EVs, not to say that really would have saved them, because fast forwarding to now, and EV sales are really not doing well, and the market's really kind of changed on how that's going, and it's going to more hybrids, where we kind of should have went in the first place instead of straight EV push. But it was because all these manufacturers were starting to dive in. They really hated Tesla for some reason. I mean, I don't really like them either, but that's a story for another day. The fact that every other manufacturer at that point in time started investing a lot of capital into EV, development. Nissan really couldn't do that. Nissan didn't have really anything to show forth. They invested some money, but because they can only invest so much, basically every little thing they put in was completely burnt. I mean, it was for the most part on most manufacturers. That's why manufacturers have to team up with each other to share the cost, the expense of development, because it's so astronomical. I mean, look at Ford. Ford has lost billions of dollars, billions with a B, over EV technology that's probably not going to really be used. This is the sad part. This is the reality. It's kind of coming full circle now with the story. Around this time, there was also a lot of speculation about the future of internal combustion engines. It was just little talking here and there, like, oh, they're going to ban engines. Oh, we're not going to ban internal combustion engines, you silly goose. What's wrong with you? Of course, we're going to be continuing to burn fossil fuels all the way until we're no longer on this planet. And then something really happened, and then something changed. Seemed like overnight. Someone flipped the switch. 2020 came along. The world seemed to get taken over by a bunch of new people. We had new faces here running the US. Canada got new faces. A lot of the world saw new leadership, all in that same time frame. And then, conveniently enough, we get COVID. And COVID shut down the whole world. Crazy stuff. It really hurt the auto industry. I mean, you know this, I know this, we all know this. Nissan was already hurting, and then COVID happened, and, well, I told you earlier, double-digit sales drops. And that was across the board for all manufacturers, but where other manufacturers end up picking their sales back up, Nissan did not. And the crazy part is Nissan, a lot of their big financial trouble was because they were pressured into trying to develop EV tech. And it wasn't out of just keeping up with the market. It was just develop an EV to sell or have nothing to sell. Because at that time, all these different governments were like, yeah, we're putting a ban on internal combustion engines, and you have like 5 years to figure it out, or tough luck. That's where you saw, company after company, all these EV startups started coming out of nowhere, coming out of the woodwork. Ford, Honda, Toyota, GM, Hyundai, all the big manufacturers. I mean, before you know it, it's like they were just pumping out these EV designs left and right. And you had this and you had that. And what did Nissan have? Well, Nissan just had the Leaf. And the Leaf really, was nothing more than a glorified golf cart for the roads, street legal, and the technology, and it wasn't really leaps and bounds over anything at the time, even though it was kind of like one of the first mainstream, or at least affordable, EVs, which is kind of ironic how Nissan was kind of way ahead of the curve with the Leaf, yet it was the EVs that kind of hurt Nissan the most, because Nissan had to start developing. They had to start putting a lot of their investment capital towards EV production or EV development, not so much into normal vehicles, on top of their already just, bad financial struggle as it was between their CEO being an idiot and just bad decisions and stuff, between CVTs costing them millions and millions to, deal with, other reliability issues. So once again, here's Nissan not having money to develop anything. They didn't have nothing to show forth. They barely had any money to sink into EV technology. Then the world started healing from COVID. Auto sales started going back up pretty good. Record amount of sales in the US for auto manufacturers, but Nissan wasn't one. And it was at that point in time that we realized there's a problem. Nissan went overboard. There was no one to throw a raft. Nothing for them to hang on to, and they've been drowning ever since. And quite honestly, Nissan is in serious financial trouble and may not survive 2025. If they do not get some type of investment to their company, if they cannot find some other company to merge with, that's it. Done. Gone. No more. And that would be nuts. All over climate change, all over EV mandates, all over corrupt leadership, all over bad decisions, all over tough luck. Whatever you draw the case to be, it doesn't change the fact that we may never see Nissan again. And that's kind of sad, because Nissan's made some cool cars, and I think that is worthy of a whole separate video. But that is going to finally wrap it up here for this video. Let me know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up here for the video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share with everyone you know. If you want to see more content like this and you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keep looking out for the next Karz Talks video.